for this project says, you will design a historical display much like you expect to see in a museum. You'll work in small groups to create a display about medical care for a specific time period. And I'll specify the time periods in just a minute. It says this display must include a variety of features such as pictures, replications of art, or artifacts. Let's see if I have an extra one of those in here. Art or artifacts, charts or graphs, tool replications, etc. Okay, it says these should add to your display, and then each should be accompanied with a small plaque to educate the observer on the item or person or picture. So let me show you guys a few examples first, and then we'll. All right, so one. So ancient Egypt, you can see, oh no, this one's really good. They got really creative. It looks really awesome. And this needs to look, you think about, you go to a museum, or you go to a museum, or even like when you think about the things that are displayed somewhere, they've got information, they kind of vary on how they look and the things that they include. And so that's what whenever you're making this, that's what I want you to think of. So this one's really cool. It's got this, they used paper towel to make like a diary looking entry that, like, if you were to find a scroll or something and see it in there. So it adds to the look of it there. And there are some things about this one that I don't love. One is that some of these are written, some of them are typed. The ones that are typed are on these lined index cards, which kind of makes me a little bit crazy because it looks crazy. But anyways, that just gives you an idea of one. Here's another one. It's probably one of the more organized, one of the most organized and neatest looking ones. You can see they have a syringe up there that as an example of immunizations, just to give you something to look at. Heart drawing, different things. I like the timeline too. Okay, here's another one. Paper's coming off. This one, I don't have enough information right in each of their plaques, but it's still nice and neat. Good deal with this one's kind of cool. I like the timeline on it, where that gave the date on each one of those, and then this one, we're starting off on the right track, but I would say just not enough information on it, right? And not enough subjects. In the past, I've had them research 10 different things. This year, I bumped it down to 8, but there's not enough there, and there's not enough information about each one. Same thing here. Good ideas.
Teachers, at this time, if you would please release the cross-country team. You would please release the cross-country team. Thank you.
Anyway, so this is another example. This is an example of an early microscope, and this was their replication of that. So they made this one to look like that. Oh, that's pretty cool. Kind of looks like a spaceship, but it was a good. I mean, you can see the resemblance. Okay. So this one doesn't have near enough info on it. It may have enough info about these, but there's not enough subjects. But it's still good ideas on there. Another one. This one, they did a timeline. That's just how they did all of their subjects. Timeline. You can kind of see in there all the way down. This one had I have some IV bags in there, and they had hung an IV bag and put red food coloring in it to make it look like blood. They because they talk about blood transfusions. And then here's the last one. This one looks really nice. It's really, it's really nice. I like the borders around each one. It's a little bit busy for me. I probably wouldn't stop and read this one, you know, if I were just going back, because it's just a lot to take in at one time. So it's kind of a balance between having all of your information but still looking really neat and organized, which this one does. It's just a little bit hard to read because one, all the same color, and then two, you know, it's just kind of a lot more space. But really great. I mean, did a great job. I'm sure you did great. Looks great. That just gives you an idea of kind of what I'm expecting. Let's look at this. It says the requirements for this display. There should be a minimum of 8 different items or subjects that you research. That means that when you're looking at these, there should be 8 different subjects that you research. So, for example, this one they did radium, vitamins, blood transfusion, pacemaker, CPR, coronary artery bypass graft, that's open heart surgery. Jim Hops talked about vaccines. So those are their subjects that they researched. Okay, does that make sense? You good with that? So you'll have 8. Last year we had 10, so these are a little bit more than we'll have. Okay, now look at this next thing. It says, of these 8 subjects, there should be at least 3 different areas or types of, not really types of research, more like areas of research. So all I'm saying is that I don't want you to look up 8 people or 8 tools. Okay, I want it to vary. Some people, some tools, some trends. So it needs to be at least 3 different areas of subjects or research. It says you can do discoveries or accomplishments. I would say kind of like radium might be an example of that on this one. People that were significant, so maybe they invented something or they came up with something, came up with an idea, beliefs or theories related to disease. So you'll find as we start talking about the history of healthcare, different eras believe different things. Like in the ancient, like far ancient eras, and even earlier, like we'll talk about like the Dark Ages and even beyond that, they still believe that disease was a result of like a spiritual issue. So the gods were angry with them, so they caused them to get a disease. We know that disease is caused by bacteria or virus, or, you know, if you lick the desk here at school, you're probably going to get sick because everybody in the mama goes to the bathroom and doesn't wash their hands. I don't understand. Or there's no soap in the bathroom, whatever reason there may be. Right? So you're going to get sick of that. We know that's why. Okay? But at that period, they believed that it was just because the gods were mad at them. So they gave up. So that's an example of a belief or theory, and there's lots of other things that could go in with that. Who the health care workers were during that time period. Now this wouldn't really, this wouldn't really matter for today, but there are certain times in history where the healthcare workers were only priests, or they were kind of like they might have been like shunned or looked down upon. It was only a job for, people who weren't considered clean. So that's kind of where that comes from. Healthcare trends. So that just means things that are popular. What's popular? Barber surgeon. We'll talk about, but CPR, that'd be a healthcare trend. Something else. Pacemaker is more like a tool. Major epidemics or health concerns at that time period. Maybe the bubonic plague was in the time period, or Spanish influenza, or whatever else there might be. Or that maybe it was a wartime, and that had an effect on healthcare. And then tools or procedures. So, not saying that you don't have to have one of each of these, but you have to, in your 8 subjects, you have to cover at least 3 different areas. Everybody understand that? You can use any combination of these. So you might have 4 discoveries, 3 people, and 1 theory. or one discovery, two people, three beliefs, one trend, one evidence. You can use any combination. Everybody follow me? It's really hard to put that on paper on these instructions, and so I have to make sure everybody understands. It gets kind of confusing sometimes. But these 8 subjects, 3 different things. Okay, now each subject of your display has to have 2 things. One, it has to have a plaque. I listed that in number 4. Flip off these. That's what tells all of the information about it. Okay, that's the little cards with all the info. And then it has to have some other element, something else that represents it. A picture, a chart, a map, a replica of an instrument, an example of a tool. You guys are welcome to use my whatever models I have or healthcare supplies that I have, glasses, whatever. You know, there's lots of different ideas that you could come up with. That stethoscope. Whatever I've got in here, you guys are welcome to use as part of your display. So that's something else. So, and look, number 3, it says each subject has to include at least one of the following elements. And again, 3 different ones. I want variation. I don't only want a picture for each one. I might have a picture for one, a replication of a tool for another one, and a timeline or a diary or something different. Okay, variation. That's what I'm looking for, is just variation in all of these. So each subject must have a plaque. These can be made using index cards or something similar, but they need to be typed or very neatly written. Okay, not like the one that had 3 different handwritings and some were typed and then pasted onto lined index cards. Okay, they did a great job and they worked with what they had. But I'm just telling you now, it needs to look a little bit nicer than that. There were other parts on there that looked awesome. But each plaque should answer these questions. 1, should give an introduction to the subject, basically like what it is, the person or the people that were involved, the person who came up with it, or, you know, priests are involved, or students, whatever it is. An explanation of the discovery, so some background information, a little bit more detail about it. And then last, and this is important, the significance of that discovery or trend or tool then and now. So what did it bring to the table then, but what does it still bring to the table? Or does it bring something? Or have they proved it? You know, what does that look like today? And y'all know, y'all watched the video yesterday, right? X-rays. Mm-hmm. Okay, what did the lady say?
She saw it.
I've seen my own death, right? Never seen a skeleton in a live person. You only, you know, skeletons were associated with dead people, and so that would be kind of creepy to see for the first time. And so, but that had a significance then, right? They could tell if something was wrong, or if they needed to, you know, if they needed to do an amputation or whatever else, they could see it ahead of time. Versus now, we still use X-rays all the time, right? We use them to figure out how they're going to do surgery or to diagnose one with a fracture or tumor or whatever else it may be. All right, it says you must include an index card or plaque with all of your references on it too. There should be one extra one. I think I must have added that with that has your references. You don't. It says on here you have to put them in MLA format. It's okay if you don't. If you'll just write down your web addresses or the name of the textbook or whatever it is you use to get your info, that's perfectly fine. Okay. All group members are expected to participate. Your group will have the opportunity to comment on the presence and assistance with the project. So you guys will all get a little rubric that has, you'll write in your group members' names. I want you to write down what they did, what you did, and that's 10% of your grade. Okay, so make sure you're doing your part. Trying to decide how I want to. Five people is too many people to have in a group. One lucky group is going to get to pick whichever one they want. We'll have 2 for one. Yeah. Okay, I'll get you an updated rubric tomorrow. I made copies, but I guess they're still in there. So the most important things, okay, I want it to be creative, and that's going to play into all of it. but the bulk of your grade is your information and your element. Okay, there's 7 points. Nope, 9 points each. Okay, so plaque will be 5 points, and the element that you add, like your picture or ID or whatever it is you have on there, is 4 points for each thing. So that's the bulk of it. Okay, so I'd rather you slack on the creativity than I'd rather you not slack at all, but if you're going to slack on the creativity and not on the plaques and the information. Otherwise, your grade will drop drastically if you don't have all of that. Okay, now, we're going to have lots of days in class to work on this. Like next week, I'm lecturing Tuesday and Thursday, but you're going to have Monday, Wednesday, Friday to work on the project. But what that means is if I let you work all that time in class on the project, I expect them to look awesome. Okay, so they are due October 1st. That's 3 weeks. Okay, my suggestion is for you guys, whenever you get started on these, is for you to figure out your 8 subjects. Let that be the very first thing you do. The first. It's on a Thursday. Okay, so let that be the first thing you do is figure out your subjects, and then maybe assign them to different people or however you want to do that. But that's my suggestion, and then you can fill in. Maybe one person write up all the plaques, one person gather up your pictures, your info, draw pictures, whatever you want to do. I'm going to keep some of these things, but I'll have a few extra boards you guys can cover up and use if you need to. But if you can get a display board, go ahead and get one. If not, let me know and I can get you one. We'll use some of these. I just like having lots of examples. Yes. Oh, I got a question. Anybody have any questions on this? I know it's kind of a lot of detail. Yes.
Who will we be like? When are you going to pick them?
I'm about to pick them. So, any other questions? I know it's kind of a lot of detail, but that's because I want them to listen, like I said. And we'll display these in the library. So that's where they'll be. Okay, let's go over.